One. Welcome to another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast. As always, I'm joined by my trusted sidekick, Jacob Klucas, who I have one question for before we get started. When you make statements like, I told you so, when you're talking about Spencer Rattler is going to be this or that, when you make statements as, I told you so, when you talk about Tyler Hero being this or that, who the hell are you talking to? Because I really don't think you're talking to me and Spencer. And I really need clarification on that.
I'm definitely talking to Spencer, because Spencer always disagrees with everything I say. So
He sure as hell didn't last week.
you not so much, because you understand where I'm coming from, because me and you, from a sports mind, pretty much have had the same kind of thoughts, ideas, so I don't have to really worry about you. But
I appreciate it.
Spencer definitely. More I told you so is more the general public, not you all specifically.
I appreciate the thought. And, it's an exciting day in the sports world, especially for Kentucky fans as yourself. Well, let me backtrack before I continue on that. It is the opening debut of the SEC, the most dominant conference in college football, opening their weekend slate of games. But I'm sure, based on that Kentucky-Auburn game earlier, you got plenty to say about it. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so early on, Terry looked very confident in everything he was doing. They didn't have a problem moving the ball downfield. In the first half, defense actually was playing really good. And then something happened. I don't know what clicked in, either with Terry or with Stoops or Eddie Gran. For some reason, we went from being a 90% run, not even 90%, 95, 98% run team last year to we're going to throw the ball 37 times today. And anybody that's watched Terry Wilson in the year and 2 games that he played at Kentucky so far, throwing 37 times is not in Terry Wilson's repertoire.
No, not really.
It's not really his game. He's more of your typical dual threat running quarterback, but more as far as when his passing goes, it's more of game managing type passes. It's not, take your shots, gunsling 37 times. Kind of like I said on my takeaways, if anybody saw them on my Facebook post, you were going to go out there and gunsling 37 times, you should have just put Bo Allen out there. At least Bo Allen has the arm to go out there and gunsling 37 times. I think what Terry's problem was early on, he was just really excited to be on the field, back from the injury from last year off the ACL. And then I think as the game went on and as he got hit more, I think he was more concerned about getting hurt again. And it really hurt his game. Because early on when they were moving the football, it was because Terry was using his legs, was, outside the pocket, dropping back to pass, using that QB draw. And then the other problem I had was early in the first half, outside of, Kentucky getting robbed of a touchdown. But Kentucky moved the ball into the red zone 3 different times in the first half and scored 0 points off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the touchdown that but that wasn't in the red zone. That was off a 35-yard run by Cavassier Smoke. They got to the red zone 3 times and didn't even score. Not even a field goal, nothing. So that's where my issue came. Then they scored again, obviously, off the touchdown pass from Wilson to Hayes. And then my other issue was the fact that Terry Wilson threw the ball just threw it away on a 2-point conversion. And a 2-point conversion isn't something you just go, oh, it's a broken play, just throw it away. It's all right, we're going to get another chance at it. No, you get one chance at it. There is no throwing it away. If nobody's open, I expect you to lower your shoulder and try to go for it. And again, obviously Texas just scored.
Yes, sir. Hook 'em horn, just like my name says.
Obviously, like I said, maybe his injury from last year played a part into that and him playing scared. And if that's the way he's going to play, is play scared, I have almost little to no faith in Terry Wilson as my quarterback this year. I don't need you playing scared. Now, granted, I understand player safety. I get it. He's worried, but you can't play scared. You can't come back off an injury, play scared. You got to be confident in what you're doing, And I get it. It may take some time, but I'm sorry. This Kentucky team is one of the more talented they've had. I'm a very impatient person, as you know. I don't have time for you to gain that confidence back, especially when I have a talented 4-star quarterback in Bo Allen waiting behind you and another very talented quarterback who I'm waiting for the NCAA to clear in Joey Gatewood. So outside of that, and then come the fourth quarter, I think the defense is tired of being on the field because the defense held up all game long for the most part outside of Kelvin Joseph getting mossed on by Seth Williams, which Kelvin Joseph is a joke based off this first game. All that talk of being a hyped-up LSU DB, and he got torched all game long. The defense held their own until the second half. Like I said, they got tired of being on the field. And I don't think, honestly, my running backs, the three-headed monster that we have, the running backs, got enough touches today. So I think the most that either of them got touches as far as running the ball was A.J. Rose, who got 10 carries. Outside of that, I think Chris Rod only got 4. Smoke only got 7. Sorry, when we gained success last year and even the year before when we won 10 games off the run game, for you to only give my guys – a grand total of 20-some-odd carries between the 3 running backs. It's not a recipe for success in my eyes. So,
I got 2 takeaways from everything you just said. One, I remember during the offseason, they came out with the top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC. And I remember you were ranting and raving about how they are just disrespecting Terry Wilson. I mean, what's changing right now? I mean, your mindset seems to be a little different now than it was back then.
So, it's different when you watch him play in game. Obviously, you got game film to watch now. And my guy just looks scared. He just looks scared to play. It's just what it is. I'm one of those guys that, I'm going to have confidence in my team and everything, but until you show me.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Wilson, the year before 2 years ago was a 10-win quarterback and played decently well for my team.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, based off the game and a half we got, looked like he was primed for a really good season for Kentucky. And then the injury happened. So, yeah, I had a lot of optimism because I had a lot to back it up based off what I'd seen the last year and a half. And so, but now I'm watching him come back off this injury, and if he doesn't kick it up next week or here soon, I'm going to be on the Bo Allen hype train here soon. Or if the NCAA clears Joey Gatewood. I said it on my post. I think if Terry were to step it up, I think Gatewood's your guy. Gatewood is going to be the turning point for Kentucky.
And the second thing I want to take away is that you mentioned Terry Wilson's not a quarterback that you want throwing the ball 37 times a game. Someone you apparently do wanting throwing the ball 37 times a game is Florida quarterback Kyle Trask, who just tied Joe Burrow's SEC record for most touchdown passes in a game, and Florida's win over Ole Miss earlier. But I'm going to be honest, though. Trask impressed me, as I expected. Very good pocket passer. And actually, side note, before we switch over to the Big 12, I do want to say Texas is up 31-21 in the first half. I'm happy with the lead, but I'll get into more of what I'm looking at so far. But sticking it with the SEC, Trask, I know what I like in him. I think he is probably the most polished Florida passer since Rex Grossman, which, looking how Rex Grossman's pro career ended, not really saying a whole lot.
Hey. My bad. Continue. Go ahead.
I'm really curious to what you're going to get right now.
No, I'm letting the dog out of my room. That's what I'm doing, so it doesn't.
Oh, you don't like your dogs being part of the show? Is it
the
curse of Gigi? The curse of Gigi lives on.
I don't like them barking during the show. That's what I don't like.
I understand. But, no, anyways, But I'm not going to lie, though. I was kind of disappointed from what I saw from Florida today. I get it. It's the first weekend back. I expect, Dan Mullins and company to make adjustments going forward. But I was really not impressed with that defensive effort today. Sticking with the SEC, one thing, a curious matchup I was looking, and I'm going to flip over to that right now as I'm watching, was the Mississippi State and LSU matchup.
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to say, because I'm not watching the game, but I'm kind of flipping through box scores of each of them, and from what I can see,
a lot of new faces and a lot of new places. You got Mississippi State side of the ball, Mike Leach taking over as head coach with KJ Costello coming over from Stanford. So how's that offense going to look? And, it looks like your typical Mike Leach offense, air out, a lot of bubble screens, all that. And KJ so far has looked okay, but and then LSU has the least returning players from a national championship season from a year ago, only 5 starters returning. Obviously, among those, Joe Burrow, the Heisman Trophy winner, greatest season ever in college football. He's now lighting it up for my fantasy team, which I still need to get a win this weekend. I'm still pissed off. But anyway, he's lighting it up for the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals just don't have enough around him right now. But among those also Justin Jefferson, Grant Delpit, guys like that. Like I said, only 5 starters returning. So it's the Miles Brennan show going on.
Wait a minute. As great as Joe Burrow was, don't disrespect the weapons that aren't there anymore.
Well, I've said Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase opted out.
Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Hold on. I did say Justin Jefferson. I was sticking to the players that left first before the players that decided to opt out, which Jamar Chase did, and that's an absolutely huge loss. Jamar Chase was my favorite receiver in college football last year. I think should be the first receiver taken off the board this year. So don't put words in my mouth. I am not disrespecting Mr. Jamar Chase, but it's interesting. I'm looking to see so many new faces and new places, and I'm interested to see how it turns out. Right now, Mississippi State's got the 17-14 lead as Miles Brennan just takes a sack, and that's probably going to be the last play of the half. But no, sticking with
36 pass attempts. 36 pass attempts from Mississippi State in the first half.
I mean, are you surprised it's a Mike Leach offense?
I just hope KJ Costello can throw 60 times a game. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, at that age, most quarterbacks can. It's just, do you want your quarterback? The question is, obviously, coming from you, a Kentucky fan, what type of quarterback you have. Do you want your quarterback throwing 60 times a game?
I sure as hell trust KJ throwing the ball 36 times a game more than I do Terry.
I think that's a pretty fair analysis right there. But sticking also to the SEC, we did a segment here on here a while back where we issued an apology to JT Daniels. And yes, I did get his name right this time, and I apologize to the fans listening. Now, before we got on the show, word has gotten in that he is now 4th on the Georgia depth chart. Klucas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yep. So I take my apology back. I don't owe an apology to nobody. I don't owe that to anybody. My man is 4th on the depth chart.
This is a former number 3 rated quarterback in the class of 2018, only behind Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields.
Yep, and to mention now, Dewan Mathis, who was named the starter, already benched. Stetson Bennett is in the game for Georgia. So basically kind of like what I told you before the show started. Georgia definitely looks like a team that has gone through 4 starting quarterbacks in a matter of 2 months. They don't know what they want, it seems like. It started with Jamie Newman. Obviously, circumstances, he opted out. You had to make a switch. It looked like JT Daniels was going to be the guy. And then I don't know what happened in the process between Jamie Newman opting out to today that JT Daniels has done to lose that job. And not only just lose that job, but go down to the last quarterback on the depth chart. So like I said, I could see why maybe they picked Mathis, because you drew up a playbook all offseason for Newman for that, running style quarterback that can, throw the ball as well. So it's an easier transition instead of rewriting the playbook to go from Newman to Mathis. But for Daniels to not even be the backup quarterback for this game makes you question, A, what did JT Daniels do to be put in that situation? And B, this is exactly why I said you shouldn't have chose Georgia to begin with.
Little different quarterback room in the SEC.
It'll be interesting to see.
Pac-12.
Yeah. So, like I said, Georgia, especially if anybody's watching, number 4 Georgia. 6 minutes ago in the half, they've got 2 points. So, and let me tell you, there's no DeAndre Swift in that running back room anymore. And everybody thought, that Zamir White was just going to come in and take it over. I'm one of those guys that said that too. And he's putting up very bad numbers today. So I don't know whether to credit Arkansas or if it's something with Georgia going on right now.
Could be a mix of both. Rounding out the rest of the SEC today, you have number 2 Alabama opening up their season on the road against Missouri. You have Texas A&M have with their home opener against Vanderbilt earlier. And, of course, Tennessee on the road against South Carolina to round out the top 25 SEC schedule. Heading to the Big 12 because, obviously, we got to get my horns in there involved. But before we get to the horns, I want to shout out someone that I very, 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 very rarely shout out, and that is our good friend Jacob Teasley, who messaged me before the show after Oklahoma State was upset by Kansas State for the second consecutive season. I want to throw that out there. He says, new year, same Oklahoma. And what he meant by that, we all know Oklahoma is talented on the offensive side of the ball. Your guy, and a guy I'm big on too, Spencer Rattler, kind of looked like a freshman today, but a lot of that I'm going to put a lot of that on the offensive line. He was back there running for his life in the entire game. Had the 3 picks, but also had the 4 touchdowns, depending on which way you want to look at that. But my biggest issue, and where Teasley was going with this too, Oklahoma, you got all that firepower on offense. And I'll give him props. I thought with adding A.J. Grinch as the defensive coordinator, we were going to start to see some improvement in that area. It's not happening so far. That Oklahoma defense is still as soft as butter, cutting. And Kansas State in the second half cut through it like a hot knife. And that's still going to be a problem. And is it maybe early season connection problems, chemistry? It's still they're actually, believe it or not, one of the younger teams and more inexperienced teams in the Big 12. Maybe. Do I think they're going to play this soft against Texas? No, because they never do. They always step it up against the Horns. It's a rivalry game. But if Oklahoma, who came into the game ranked number 3 in the country, is going to want to make that push for yet another college football playoff, they got to look a lot better than this.
I agree. Been saying for the longest time that, for all we know, with the offensive firepower they had, if they just had any kind of a defense, Oklahoma could maybe have 1 or 2 college football championships by now, especially under the Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray regime. It's just funny how we touched on it before. We went from the Bob Stoops era where we recruit all defense. We worry about the offense next, but they always had good offensive players, but it was all about the defense. Oklahoma always was top 10 in the country in defense. And now you go to the Lincoln Riley era, and it's all about the offense. And I get it. Football nowadays it is an offensive game. I get that. But you still have to be able to play defense. Now, not saying you have to be shut down. You don't have to be a shutdown defense to be that good. You just have to have a defense that can make stops when you need them to. And Oklahoma can't stop a middle school team. And I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. How, I get that. Lincoln Riley goes after these offensive guys, but just the name Oklahoma alone should be able to pull in some kind of defensive guys.
If you look at their recruits, they've been recruiting more and more on the defensive side of the ball, but I guess the obvious key is putting it together. But not going to pick on Oklahoma too much because, as I said earlier, my Horns are in a 31-21 game right now at halftime against the Red Raiders. And our defense right now doesn't look much better. I had high hopes for our defense this year. I will say Joseph Asai is doing a great job getting in the backfield. They've pressured Kai Bowman to throw 2 interceptions in the first half. Got a 10-point lead, but they're playing soft on the defensive side of the ball as well. I'm not pleased. Obviously, the offense, Ellinger is looking great. Joshua, all right, first of all, we lose guys like Colin Johnson and Devin Duvernay to the NFL draft. This guy, Joshua Moore, is the next man up. He's an absolute stud. Caught a 30-yard touchdown pass in which he mossed his defender. I'm liking him. After a big week in week 1, he's picking up where he left off. So offensively, I like what I'm seeing from Texas. I think Ellinger is going to be in the Heisman race for most of the season. But defensively, I'm kind of disappointed right now. I think we're too talented in our linebacking core and our secondary. Up front, we have a couple nice players up front. I really like Daquan Graham. Really big on Keandre Coburn. So we have the people. Of course, Chris Ash just has to make some major adjustments for the second half because that up-tempo Red Raider offense is just marching down the field against us. And if we can't force turnovers in the second half, we could be Texas could very well have the same narrative that Oklahoma has right now. And I don't want to be associated with those Sooners. This is supposed to be
it's the entire Big 12 narrative.
Texas is back.
We shall see, pal. We shall see. So let's moving on from the Big 12 to the Pac-12. They've officially announced they're coming back.
In November.
In November, have been ruled playoff eligible. So does any team make a final push as most teams are ending their season? Pac-12 are starting their season. Does any Pac-12 team make a final push for the college football playoff?
I'm going to shout out Mario on this one. I think if any team does, it's going to be Oregon. I think they're the most talented on both sides of the ball, even with their stud offensive linemen choosing to opt it out for 2020. I think they're the most balanced on both sides of the ball. We still have, kind of like what we told Mario, we still have those question marks of who is going to be the quarterback. So obviously don't know how good we are, but I think they have the best chance of any team in the Pac-12.
We'll go a little bit of a hot take here. Shortened season for the Pac-12. I think bodes
I know where you're going.
for the Trojans.
Oh, no.
For the Trojans.
That's not where I was expecting to go.
I think USC, Keldon Slovis. I got another team coming, so hold that thought. Don't say it yet because they might be coming. I think it bodes well for USC. You're playing at Southern Cal. You're playing in November and December. Southern Cal weather isn't going to bother you. So I think it bodes well for the Trojans when you're only playing a 6 to 8 game schedule.
I'd say it's 7 games right now.
Yep. So 7 games. I think it bodes well for the Trojans, pending how their schedule looks, obviously. But in a shorter game period. Another team that I think it bodes well for is Mr. Herb Edwards and the Arizona State Sun Devils.
That's the one I was looking for.
Let me tell you, they've got a sensational quarterback.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you.
I think he's the best quarterback in the Pac-12.
You can argue him and Slovis are the 2 best quarterbacks in the Pac-12 right now. I'm with you. I would argue that he is as well. He's more talented, I would say, in terms of being able to do it both with your legs, with your arm. Because, boy, can he just gunsling that ball across the field with the flick of a wrist, not effortlessly. So I think shorter season bodes well for those 2 teams. So I would not be surprised if mainly USC, can make a push because it is the Pac-12. So you're gonna have a lot of people saying, "Well, who did they play?" They didn't really play anybody. We're not gonna put them. USC, because of their name, can really put a dent into things because they are USC, and then also Arizona State. They come out and just blow teams out the water. You're gonna have a lot of people on the committee going, oh, maybe they do belong here. So I think a shorter season bodes well for USC and Arizona State.
Very fair, very fair, very fair. Say, do you want to stick with the Pac-12 or do you want to move on to the ACC? Because I think we got a local fan base that has going to have a lot to say about the game that just happened. Klucas?
Loserville.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're like cutting in and out. How's your connection? Because mine's doing all right.
All right, hold on. Let's try that. See if it works. We good?
I mean, I can hear you. Yeah, we're good.
All right. Sounds good.
So obviously, Louisville drops their second game in a row, moving their record to 1-2 with a 23-20 loss to Pittsburgh on the road. What do you make of this Louisville team, Steve? I mean, what do you make of this Louisville team right now?
They might as well just ship themselves to the Big 12 because they can't play defense either.
I know, so much shade, but I respect it though.
I mean, watching Miami last week, and I watched at least two different touchdowns where I didn't even see a defender in sight. And today they just can't play defense. That's just what it is. They've got the offensive firepower. Kind of going back to who was it? Who was it that said something on one of your posts where they said, well, Malik needs to go back to McCall because he's been trash ever since he went back to Malik.
Oh, I forget who said that. I forget who said it, but I was like, perfect. No, it was Brandon, I think. I think it was Brandon.
Was it? I wanted to think it was Brandon, but I didn't want to say it.
Brandon's all right. First of all, Brandon has had some of the best freaking takes I've heard all the past couple of weeks. His most annoying fan base is one just killed me. I don't know if you saw it, but he was going down the line. He was making like smart ass remarks about each fan base. Then he gets down to NASCAR and he goes, Dale Earnhardt Senior. Does not say anything else, but puts a caption and goes, just remember, the wall won.
So, I mean, this Louisville team, we know they can play offense. You've got the running backs with Hawkins and Hall. You've got the quarterback in Malik, McCole, whatever you want to go by, Cunningham. You've got the receivers. You got Tutu Atwell. You got Braden Smith. You got Des Fitzpatrick. At what point is the defense going to step up?
That is the big question.
And so, going back to maybe he should go back to McCall. Malik Cunningham today was 9 of 21 for 107 with a touchdown and 3 picks. A QBR of 32.6. Let's shout out Mari because I seen the post earlier. Oh, I didn't know Malik Cunningham was tied for first in FBS and passing touchdowns. Yeah, well, after today, he may be tied for first in interceptions because it was a pretty bad day today. And Pittsburgh is solid. I wouldn't say they're necessarily a great football team. They're a solid football team. But I mean, that's literally Louisville's downfall is they can't play defense. And when they can't play defense, offense is having to pick it up and you're getting teams that are getting these tiny stops, these little stops on Louisville to keep them from scoring 1 or 2 times. And your defense you're pretty much giving 2 touchdowns for every 1 you're scoring. You're never going to win a football game. So for Satterfield, you've got the offense. You had the offense moving last year. You got them moving this year. You got to turn a focal point on that defense. You have to.
I'm gonna actually agree 100% with you on that one. I mean, they have, like you said, they have the weapons on offense. That's not the issue. I really like Hawkins, the running back. Malik, McHale, whatever you want to call him. I like him as a college quarterback. Don't like his throwing ability at all. Not a real polished passer in my eyes, so tough for me to really be sold on him. But when he gets out and run, he's as electric as anybody. But I'm not gonna bash Louisville fans too hard because at least Louisville fans, their team has a win on their resume. My other college team, on the other hand, does not. In the way it looks today, it looks like they're going to go to 0-3, and that is the Duke Blue Devils, who I had much, as you remember, I had much higher hopes than what they're starting out this year. You know, they're losing to a Virginia team right now, 17-10 at halftime. Chase Bryce, you're not in Clemson anymore, buddy. The offensive line at Duke is not as good. The receivers are not as good. You, in turn, are also not as good as I thought. So far, in the first half, he is 8 for 20 with 126 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But it's even worse. The Blue Devils have 24 yards on the ground. Not something to be proud of. Obviously, a Cutcliffe team, Cutcliffe has this narrative about him that he is a quarterback guru. And at some points, that's correct. But in a lot of ways, he makes quarterbacks look better, some better than they actually are. But it's all centered around a running game. They throw off the run. And if you cannot establish the run in Cutcliffe's offense, you are not going to have a lot of success. You know, unless you're Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was Daniel Jones. Obviously, Daniel Jones is by far the best quarterback that's come through Duke, ever, as far as I'm concerned. But the Thaddeus Lewises of the world, the Anthony Boones, the Thomas Sirks, and now Chase Bryce, they're going to have to play off the run. And if we're only rushing for 24 yards and a half, it's not going to do it. You know, Deshaun.
I'm not going to say, kind of going into what we said at the beginning of the show, not going to say I told you so, but I was never that high on Chase Bryce. So
I was more high of his upside and being paired with David Cutcliffe. But being that what I just said, Malio Durant, Deion Jackson, you all got to have a better second half. And Texas is just gave up a touchdown on a muff punt. Oh my gosh. This is shades of last year. Texas will look really good, and then they'll do something really stupid. So I'm not having a good time right now. So please.
All right. Well, let's move on from the college football world then. Let's talk about the guys behind me.
That's right. They play tonight at 9:00. Are they closing it out, or is Denver going to make another run at returning at overcoming a 3-1 deficit? Which, if they do, will be the third time this postseason they do so. So, Klucas, what are your thoughts on the game tonight, and how is it going to go?
Look, I'm kind of on the side of Chris Broussard in terms of I kind of want the Nuggets to win the night, only to start that narrative of the Nuggets are going to make their 3-1 comeback. We get the storyline for Game 6 for it to be a total wipeout. But the other part of me says, let's not even let them even try to have that momentum, and let's just go ahead and wipe them out tonight. I think the Lakers finished the deal tonight. Lakers are 36-1 all time when leading 3-1 in a series. For those of you that don't know, for y'all beloved Kobe fans, rest in peace, Mamba. Kobe and the Lakers blew the 3-1 lead to Phoenix. Was the one and only time the Lakers have lost a 3-1 series. And I'm sorry, LeBron James is not going to blow a 3-1 series. He comes back down 3-1. He does not blow 3-1s. So
what's your predicted stat line for tonight? Let's go with the four real stars in this series. LeBron and AD on one side, and then Murray and Jokic on the other.
You know what? I think the adjustment of moving Dwight Howard to the starting lineup has really thrown a wrench into Jokic. And Jokic is a great player, but Howard is getting to Jokic early, and it's affecting him late. 2 straight games, Jokic has scored 0 points in the fourth quarter. Part of that is because he's had to bang with Dwight Howard the first 3 quarters. When you got a guy that's willing to make you work on offense while you're at the offense, but not only that, you have to keep an eye on him on the defensive end because he's there for putbacks, rebounds, everything. It's tough for Jokic. As far as the stat line goes, I'm going to go Jokic is going to give you a 26-point. We go 26, 13, and 7 tonight for Jokic. Murray, I'm going to give him, let's see. Murray, I'm going to give him 24 tonight. I'd give him more after watching LeBron clamp him up the last 5 minutes of the game the other night. I think if Murray starts to get it going in the fourth quarter, LeBron's just going to tell everybody, get out of my way. I've got him again.
Which is kind of funny because one of the big knocks that Spencer has on LeBron later in his career is the fact that he doesn't play defense. But as we've seen time and time again, when it's time to really make a defensive stop, LeBron's there.
And so let's talk about that just a tad bit, because we got a little bit of time to talk about the NBA here. So let's talk about it. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jimmy Butler's red hot game 1, going off, scorching Milwaukee. Reporter asked Giannis if, keep in mind, Giannis is the defensive player of the year.
And MVP.
Giannis was asked after the game, why didn't you check Jimmy Butler? His response, well, that's not what was asked of me as the team. I'm sorry. I'm going to always refer back to this as a guy that was considered better than LeBron this year. I'm going through all the guys that are considered better than LeBron this year. As that guy, when you're considered better than King James, as that guy as defensive player of the year, I'm telling my coach I'm taking him when he's that hot. Okay, then we move to Kawhi Leonard, who played against this Nuggets team, played against Jamal Murray when he was this red hot. Kawhi couldn't get a stop. And then we move to the Lakers, where LeBron says, get out my way, I've got it, and what happens? LeBron with a complete lockdown, which we saw already in the bubble. We saw LeBron do this the very first game in the bubble when they played the Clippers, fourth quarter. Told everybody, get out his way, I got Kawhi. And Kawhi was locked down the entire fourth quarter. So, for those of you that want to doubt LeBron on the defensive end, LeBron does what he does on the defensive end because you've got to save your energy for the offense. But just know, if he needs to come up with that stop, and he's tired of watching his guys get torched, LeBron's going to take that mantle, and he's going to put you back in your place. So, as far as the other side of that stat line goes, I'm going to give AD a 34-point. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt based off his last 2 games. I'll give him 6 rebounds tonight. And I'll give him 2 blocks because he's not really much of an assist guy, so I'll go blocks. LeBron, I'm expecting a LeBron closeout game. So I'm going to go 33, 10, and 14.
Oh, big stat line from a big-time player. I like it. I do want to backtrack to one of the first things you said when I started this, and that was the decision for Frank Vogel to start Dwight Howard. And where that's been so huge, not only – and you touched on a lot of it, the fact that Jokic has to bang with him for 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter he's gassed. I mean, his legs are almost done. But another thing, for me, the biggest thing is how much of a factor he was on the offensive glass, given those second chance points to the Lakers. If I'm Frank Vogel, I start Dwight Howard from here on out. I mean, whether we'll get to the other series in a minute, but, you can close out the Nuggets, and no other team left is going to have the size to be able to compete with L.A. I mean, it's hard enough with AD and JaVale starting the starting lineup, but AD and Dwight is a totally different ball game. Dwight's a lot more physical than JaVale.
And it's a different defensive game, too.
Mm-hmm. You have a former 3-time defensive player of the year. and he's a much better factor on the rebound on the glass, I should say.
Yeah, but 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and a guy that should have won Defensive Player of the Year this year. But that's neither here or there. So we'll let that go. But
moving on to the other series, and I had, as a Heat fan, when we went up 3-1, I was pumped. When Tyler Hero burst onto the scene with his 37-point performance, off the bench, no less.
He's a bucket.
He's a bucket. And then we go to last night. The series is now 3-2. The Heat shot 20% from beyond the three-point line, which our offense is very heavily based around. Cannot have that. No, that just will not do, sir. But let's go back to Mr. Hero for a second. I specifically remember when he was drafted. I went on a lot of Heat pages. Heat fans were not pleased. Of course, that video went viral of that kid watching the draft. When the Heat selected Tyler Hero, he goes, "Ha! Who is that?" And Klucas told me, "How can you say that about a blue blood guy?" And I kind of got to agree. As much as I wanted to joke on Klucas about being a blue-goggled Kentucky fan, I had to agree. How is a prospect from a blue blood school? You consider yourself a basketball fan and you have no idea who they are. That is just surprising to me. I personally thought Tyler Hero was much more highly sought of in high school than apparently he was, because that's all I heard about in that Kentucky class. His freshman class, I should say, was Tyler Hero, how great he was. I look at another Heat fan page, and I see a guy say, I guess, assert himself and say, "This is not a good pick, Heat fans. He is another Duncan Robinson." Which I have a couple things to say about that. One, Duncan Robinson had hit 273s this year. That's more than Ray Allen hit in any season of his career. I'm obviously not saying Duncan Robinson's better than Ray Allen, but Duncan Robinson's been pretty effective for us. Two, have you watched Tyler Hero, at all? He's a much better ball handler, much better shot creator than Duncan Robinson.
Much better defender.
That's debatable. I'm still not sold on Tyler Hero's defense at this point in his career, but
I'm not saying Tyler's a laga, but he's a better on-ball defender than Duncan Robinson.
That is debatable. And watching every game, that is debatable. But nonetheless, if you're going to point yourself and say this is a bad pick, know what you're talking about. So you, sir, need to stop talking. And you were wrong. And I'm glad you were wrong. And we just need to close out the series because I really don't want to blow a 3-1 lead.
And another one of those, I told you so. So I want to give a shout out to Dale Easley, who told me when Tyler was drafted, no disrespect, not saying that he's a bad player at all. He said Tyler Hero was Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard's a good basketball player. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big Luke Kennard fan. I love Luke Kennard.
I don't think he's being used correctly in Detroit. I think if he went to a team that would utilize his funds, if he went to Miami or if he went to Boston or if he went to San Antonio, I think we'd get a much different version of Luke Kennard than what we've gotten.
Go ahead and sign him up for the Lakers. LeBron will take a great shooter like Luke Kennard.
Let's go. Block punt touchdown, Texas. Let's go. Book him horn.
So I said Tyler Hero is more Devin. I've been saying since he was in college. Hero's more
Hold
Devin.
on. You told me earlier in the week, high school.
Oh, okay. Well, high school. I was going to say I've been saying since high school, but I was going to give everybody the benefit because everybody when you say since high school, everybody's like, "Oh, you didn't say that. You didn't say that." So I said he's more Devin Booker-ish than most people are going to give him credit for. And if you watch their games when Tyler Hero gets the ball ISO situations, him and Devin Booker are not that far off from players. If you give Tyler Hero the same amount of touches and looks as Devin Booker does, I'd be almost willing to bet that Tyler Hero could put up similar numbers. Booker's not wildly athletic, and neither is Tyler Hero. So they're similar, almost athletic-wise. Maybe Booker's a little bit more athletic. They both got the same type of jump shot. They both are great shooters. Both can ball handle, both can facilitate a little if you need them to. So I said he was more Devin Booker-ish than Luke Kennard-ish. And I think that 37-point off the bench game was a game 4.
It was
Kind
game
of proved
4.
that. Kind of proved that. And I think it gives Miami something to look for next year in terms of no, not saying look into next year, but I'm talking about going into the future of maybe this is our starting shooting guard. Maybe this is one of our top scoring options we look to get the ball to. So.
And, that's one thing as a Heat fan that we've been missing the last several seasons, a pure shot creator. Jimmy Butler, as much as I love him, love his game and, how much the impact he's had on us this year, he's a good, not great shot creator. His biggest impact is his leadership and his energy and the scrappy plays that he makes. He's an all-star caliber energy guy is what he is, if we're getting down to it, which is not a knock on him at all. I think you can build a team around a guy like that. I mean, in the Heat are proof right now. I mean, they're one win away from the NBA Finals, and that's who they really rally around is, well, him and Bam, but you know what I'm saying. But the one thing we've been missing the last several years is that perimeter shot creator. And if Hero continues to really showcase what he can do, I think the talks of going after somebody like Victor Oladipo and Bradley Beal, though they will never go away because you don't want to turn down big-time free agents of that caliber, but it's going to quiet a little bit. You're going to be more sold that Hero is the guy. Which I thought he would. My biggest thing about, going back to high school, Tyler Hero, I never doubted the player that he could be. I was on board with you that he plays like Devin Booker. And to be fair, a lot like Devin Booker himself, I didn't doubt that they would turn into the players that they are. I doubted how fast they would do it. When he first signed with Kentucky, I thought Tyler Hero was going to be a 2-year player. And I thought he had a good, not great freshman season at Kentucky, but obviously showcased enough to be a lottery pick. When the Heat drafted him, I said, okay, that's good. I think he's a very capable player, and he's going to a very well-coached team with, in my opinion, the hottest coach in the NBA right now in Eric Spoelstra, but that's neither here nor there. So I was like, this is going to be a good long-term pick. I like it. I think he'll show a lot of promise his rookie year, but he's going to keep getting better and better. I didn't expect that in Game 4. What we saw in Game 4, I did not see coming. But I'm really glad it did.
I am too, as a Kentucky fan. So, that's my boy. It's boy wonder right there.
And, speaking of our college fan bases going to our NBA fan bases, this is the one series that you were going to catch me rooting against Jason Tatum. And really the last 2 games, he's torched us. Obviously Game 4 we were able to come away with the win because Hero was so hot. But, he scored 0 points in the first half, but scores 28 in the second. And it's like, okay, we can't expect and I said after the game, you can't expect to force 19 turnovers, hold the Celtics' best player to scoreless in the first half, and only end up winning by 3. And Game 5 was fruition. I think it was a lot less turnovers. I believe it was 11 or 12. I don't have the stats in front of me right now. We can check later. But here in the third quarter, Tatum does it again, scores 17 points. We were up double digits. Now we're almost down double digits heading into the fourth. And Tatum's got the offense rolling. As a Duke fan, I know what Tatum can do. And I thought the first several games of the series, I thought we did a good job. At least, he got his, but at least holding him in check to where he's not going to explode like he did in games 4 and 5. But that's a guy. I mean, Tatum's a special player. You have to contain him enough. And the last 2 games, I think we got to do a better job of that. I don't know if we just got to go back to the zone we were running or what it is, or run a box and 1. Whatever's been working. Whatever works, I'm all for it. Go Heat. Let's close it out.
Oh, and same. Let's go, L.A. Let's wrap up this series. So from NBA to NFL.
We have Klucas's weekly picks. Or do we – hold on. Before we get into those, do we want to talk about week 2?
I was going to summarize week 2 just a little bit. I went 13-3 last week.
What's your record so far in the season? Or you been keeping track?
Overall, I'm 21-11 now after last week. Well, 21-12 after Thursday night. I missed that one. But last week, the only games I missed, the Bears and Giants. I had the Giants winning. Bears ended up pulling that one out. What else? The Cowboys and their huge comeback versus Atlanta. Missed that. And then the Monday Night Football game, New Orleans and Las Vegas. Missed out on that. Outside of that, it was a pretty damn good week. Pretty good bounce back week from going 8-8 week 1. So I'll take it. So Thursday night game was Miami and Jacksonville. We all know.
Hold on. I was going to get into my week 2 takeaways. So
go ahead.
Hold your horses, sir. Well, anyways, so I had about 9 different takeaways from week 2. My first one, Green Bay's legit. Aaron Rodgers looks like Aaron Rodgers of old. And when you have a very good system that is friendly to he was out of bounds. Sorry, I was watching the Texas game. But anyway, anyways, when you have a very offense that's so predicated on the running attack and getting Aaron Jones involved, who Aaron Jones also had a monster week last week, and then a constantly improving defense, I think we need to jump more on the hype train that Green Bay can come out of the NFC very easily. They look legit.
I'm not sold after playing the Lions and the Vikings.
They look pretty good to me.
Those aren't necessarily the greatest test in the world. So,
from what I'm seeing, I like them a lot. My number 2 take, and a lot of Lions fans are going to agree with me on this. It's been a long time coming, but Matt Patricia is not the answer.
Nope.
They are terrible.
It's time to clean house in Detroit. Get rid of Patricia, get rid of the GM, get rid of Matthew Stafford. It's time to completely clean house.
Absolutely. Number 3, the Falcons do it again, or are the Cowboys more clutch than we think?
The Falcons did it again.
Something about blowing 20-point leads in the Falcons. I mean, there's something's just never going to be let down about that. Number 4, my early season most improved player, Mr. Josh Allen, someone you think should be in a very high MVP race. Another monster performance, and him and that Stephon Diggs connection is looking scary.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Missing.
Number 5, something you're going to appreciate. In his debut, I am not going to sell too much on it, but Justin Herbert looked a lot better than I thought. But I'm not sold on him all the way. Still a lot of –
I so badly wanted to tell you to suck it, hater, last week when he was coming out and just dicing up Kansas City's defense. Look, where you got to give him a little bit more credit, though. My man was told 5 minutes prior to game time that he was starting.
Mm-hmm.
He had no first-team reps all week. None of that. And just got told 5 minutes before, hey, you're starting. Oh, by the way, we're playing the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City. And he just came out there and just carved them up left and right.
I mean, no, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, but of course, that's your job as a professional athlete is you have to be, your next man up. You got to be ready. It's a minute's notice. Is it still impressive? Absolutely. God, this game's wearing me out. But it's still impressive.
I'm going to need you to focus, Les.
I can't. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. But it's still impressive, but that's also what you're expected to do. Still made some very rookie throws late that I think cost them some turnover on downs, but, it is what it is. That's a learning curve. We'll see how it goes. I'm not putting all my eggs in the Herbert basket just yet, but played a lot better than I expected. Obviously, when I wrote this, the news had not broken out. The narrative was that Tyrod Taylor was going to continue to be a starter when healthy. But in one of the most medical blunders you will ever hear in the National Football League is that your trainer gives you a shot of cortisone to numb the pain, and he punctures your starting quarterback's lung. Talk about a multi-million-dollar mistake.
Dude, how do you mess that up?
I'm not a trainer, so I'm not willing to put myself in that situation. But given that, say Tyrod Taylor, so obviously Justin Herbert's going to start this week. That being said. But say all that was neither here nor there. Do you start Justin Herbert or do you start Tyrod from here going out?
Yes, you start Justin Herbert. He had the offense rolling more than Tyrod did even in week 1. We know what kind of quarterback Tyrod Taylor is. He's a average quarterback that's not going to move the ball downfield. He's a game manager as far as a passer. Herbert's going to move the ball downfield. He's going to gunsling to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and get the ball out to Austin Eckler.
Damn it, now Keandre Coburn's hurt.
He's going to do what they want to do. And I'm a firm believer of if you have your franchise quarterback, so what if you're losing your first year? I'd rather you lose with your franchise quarterback and let him learn now rather than just continue to sit him through all these mistakes that he could be learning from right now.
Very fair. Number 6, which could arguably the most notable take from week 2. And I'm thinking back to Oprah's old segment where she's giving out cars. You get a car, you get a car. Well, in week 2, it was you get an injury, you get an injury, you get an injury. How many big names went down with injuries? I mean, Christian McCaffrey was one. Saquon Barkley was another. I mean, I think, 12 injuries to big name
Dude,
players?
Almost a quarter of the San Francisco 49ers team.
I mean, that should tell you enough right there. Among those, obviously, there's stud pass rusher in Nick Bosa.
Just listen to this. Out of the 49ers alone that went down last week, Jimmy G, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Richard Sherman, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, George Kittle. I mean, for the love of God, dude, like.
These aren't just guys. These are like your stars.
Yeah. And then you throw in Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, on all these guys, and you're like, dude, what was in everybody's Gatorade last week? Because it seemed like if you laced up a pair of cleats and put some shoulder pads on last week, you had a 75% chance of getting hurt last week.
I think your math's pretty accurate on that too as well. But anyways,
appreciate that.
Number 7, my MVP favorite, Russell Wilson. He's looking like the MVP. Another stud performance last week. I mean, Seahawks are just looking nice. I mean, I think they're looking a lot better than they have the last couple of years as a team. Jamal, they don't have a great pass rush, but what they've done is line Jamal Adams kind of in the box and have him rush the passer, and I think that's working out really well right now. Of course, Russell Wilson, as he's gaining chemistry with his receivers not named Tyler Lockett, he always works great, but he's looking that much better.
DK Metcalf is looking very Julio Jones-like.
And that's why he was my favorite receiver in that class. Why he was not the first receiver taken is beyond me, but that's neither here nor there.
The Colts let him go by twice and didn't take him is beyond me.
And they even picked an Ohio State guy, which is very surprising that you're hopping on that train. But
look,
now, speaking of injuries, he's injured now.
Yeah, thank God it's not a torn ACL though.
Yeah, but it's still
Yeah.
Sprained ACL, you'd almost want to tear it. Is the thing is that it's so weak right now that you might as well just tear it. But anyways, my number 8, So far, so good in New England with the Cam Newton project. It's looking good. And that's Klucas's guy. And I want to see Cam succeed too. My question mark just was from a personality standpoint. How are the Patriots personnel and the Cam Newton personnel going to fit? So far, it's looking good. And I'm all for it because I want Cam to be back. Number 9, and finally, before we get to our week 3 picks, new stadium, new Raiders, and Carr is back to MVP form since he suffered the injury back in 2017.
Look, all I'm going to say about the Raiders is, while yes, I did pick against them last week against the Saints, but all I'm saying is I'm not saying you haven't, Les. I've never necessarily heard your opinion on. I have been saying for the longest time that Derek Carr is not as bad as advertised. And
Not at all. Not at all.
He is a good quarterback. And everybody told me, again, when I say everybody, I'm talking about the general public. Everybody has told me Derek Carr's no good. He's not that guy. And I said, how is a guy the last year that I believe only threw 24 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions and had a 68% completion percentage? How is he bad? And now I'm so glad that Derek Carr is just out here looking great. Because Derek Carr was that guy his first couple of years in Oakland, and then the injury hit.
I'd have to agree. So, without further ado, I think it's time for you to get into your week 3 picks.
So, we know what happened Thursday night. The Beard beat the Stash 31-13. Fitzmagic versus Minshew Mania. So, we go into Sunday. The football team travels to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
I know who I like.
Washington has top 3 pass rush in the NFL so far through 2 weeks. Baker Mayfield is not very good against teams that run the ball or that are very good at pass rushing. But with that being said, I think the Browns found a formula to win with last week with just give the damn ball to Chubb and Kareem Hunt and let Baker throw only when needed. So with that, I think Washington's able to keep it close. But with that being said, I got the Browns winning 24-20.
Ooh, I don't want to see that from Bijan. Bijan just tried to hurdle and then landed on his head. But anyways, I'm with the Cleveland Browns on that. I think I agree 100%. They have to run the ball through Chubb and Kareem Hunt and use the play action and use Baker to throw off the play action pass. Look, when Baker's got an open receiver, he's accurate. It's where he struggled is obviously what you said with the pass rush, seeing ghosts and having to throw receivers open in that situation.
Hold on. He's not Sam Darnold. Don't say seeing ghosts.
You don't have to be Sam Darnold to see ghosts, but I do think when he's rushed, he does get rattled. He keeps his eyes downfield. Not to say, all right, maybe I stretched it a little bit by saying seeing ghosts because he does do a great job keeping his eyes downfield. But
Sam Darnold literally saw ghosts, so.
Yeah, he literally did. That's the thing. But with Baker on the other side, on the other end of Baker, I do think he does get a little more amped up when there's a rush, and I think it causes throws to go off its mark more than you want your elite quarterbacks to have. Look, Baker at this point in his career is not an elite quarterback in the league, and that's always going to be the expectation for him being a former number 1 overall pick. I think he's better than what the general public believes he is. I think he's a very quality Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Wow. I don't know what happened there, but I think he's a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. But like I said, as of right now, they got to definitely run the ball with Chubb and Hunt, open up the running game, pass off the running game. And I think, like you said, that's their formula for success right now. And I think they can do it, especially against a team that with a pass rush like the football team. How you beat a pass rush, you run the ball up the middle. You have one of the best in the game at breaking tackles in Nick Chubb. I like the Browns.
All righty. Colts and Jets. Jets, a very bad offensive line. Colts are top 5 in the league in pass rushing. They are behind Pittsburgh and Or sorry, they're actually third in the league in rushing. They're behind Pittsburgh and Washington. Um, Jets very bad offensive line. I think Indianapolis is able to get to the quarterback. They're able to run the ball with ease. I got the Colts winning this one and pretty easily, 35-14.
Not so fast. The Colts have struggled against the Jets for the latter half of the decade and even a little bit before that, dating back to the Mark Sanchez days and when we had Peyton Manning as well. That being said, I do think the Colts win.
All righty. Falcons and Bears in Atlanta. I think Atlanta has a bounce back week this week after blowing a huge lead, losing in week one. I think the Falcons bounce back, and I think they win this one 37-21 against Chicago.
You expect the Bears to score 21 points?
Hey, I didn't expect Mitchell Trubisky to throw 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of week one either, but that happened. So
yeah, you're right. I'll give you that. But I'm also with you. I'm going to also give you that I think the Falcons have a bounce back week. So I'm going to agree with you on this one.
All right, Rams and Bills in Buffalo. Two teams that play very similar. For the most part, Jared Goff's not the runner that Josh Allen is, obviously. I got the Rams going. I got the Rams going into Buffalo and winning this one, 32-26.
The Rams going into Buffalo. Now, obviously, with the COVID guidelines, the home matchup does not mean as much as it normally does. I also want to touch on, similar to what I said about how Baker's playing right now, is very similar to how Goff plays. You have to establish the run game and have him especially with the Rams, you want to run that halfback zone, bounce to the outside of the tackles, and then have Goff pass off that play action, that long play action fake that he does. So I think the offenses are a little different. But I think Josh Allen's playing as good as anybody right now. And I love that Bills defense. I'm going with the Bills.
All right. The Titans, they seem like they get to pick up on the scraps on any team Indy plays the week before. Tennessee goes to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I have the Titans winning 22-14 in Minnesota.
The Vikings are disappointing me this year. I think they have too talented of a roster to be 0-2 right now. And they definitely have too good of a roster to end week 3 0-3. But I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
All righty. How about the Red Hot Raiders? They go and take on Super Cam and the Patriots. I got Cam Newton coming back, putting in another MVP statement type game. 30-20 against the Raiders.
Not so fast. I'm going to give a shout out to a guy who could not make it on the show, and that's Matthew Spencer. His newly adopted team, his hometown Vegas Raiders. The red hot car is back to playing at MVP caliber. John Gruden did not warrant some. Ooh, did Moore almost catch that? Okay. Anyways, Coach Gruden did not warrant a lot of the criticism that he has received. I think he's a very good coach, and he's got these Raiders playing great ball. I like the Raiders. 34-21.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, Les. So what the Raiders do best on defense, what very little they do best on defense, is they're very good at the vertical passing game. They're very good at stopping people from getting big plays. They're very good at that. What they're not very good at, and what they're actually one of the worst in the league at, is the little 6-yard plays, the little quick slant plays. And what do the Patriots specialize in? The
Dink
short
and dunk
pass
offense,
game.
yeah, the dink and dunk game.
The short pass
to
game.
be fair, though, you can say the same thing about Drew Brees, who apparently had a dismal week last week.
Yeah, he also
we'll get into that. We'll get into that
didn't have
later
his
on.
top target, and so. Anyways, Patriots win this one 30-20. 49ers and Giants. Now, if this game actually happens, because from what I'm hearing, San Francisco is thinking about not playing it all this week because they don't want to play at MetLife Stadium again after what just happened last week. And honestly, I can't say I blame them. I wouldn't want to play in a stadium where a quarter of my team just went down either. But if they were to play this, Nick Mullins in the past, who has started for San Francisco, has been very good against bad defenses, and that's exactly what New York is a bad defense. So I'm going to give the 49ers to win 27-13.
Is the Giants' defense really that bad?
Yes, it's pretty bad.
They didn't look too bad against Pittsburgh. Of course, I didn't watch them in week 2, but with a quarter of your team hurt, your best players at that, I'm going to go with the G-men for an upset here. And my boy Daniel Jones is going to lead the charge. No Saquon Barkley. He's going to be gunning that bitch. I'm calling it now.
All righty. So Cincinnati and Philly. I'm pulling off with the upset. Carson Wentz is struggling, is going to continue to struggle. Bengals go to Philly and get the win. Joe Burrow gets his first win of the year, 34-23.
I think I'm going to disagree with you. Carson Wentz has struggled. You want to talk about a bad defense, Cincinnati's not much of one either. And I think Carson Wentz has a redemption game, especially with how much people are talking on social media. And I think he redeems himself. That being said, I also think Joe Burrow is going to come out and do his thing. I think it's going to be a 35-30 Eagles win. Same score as last Thursday night's game against the Browns.
I'm giving the Bengals the win, and then I'm riding on the let's get Jalen Hurts to start train.
Oh, you're pushing it, bud.
Texans, Deshaun Watson on the road against Pittsburgh. There's no way Deshaun Watson can go 0-3 to start the year, right? Yeah. There is. Unfortunately for Deshaun Watson, your first 3 games of your NFL season was against Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Talk about a rough 3-game stretch to begin your year.
The Super Bowl champs and then two of the top 5 defenses in the NFL.
But the Steelers' offense does struggle at times. So I'm going to give Pittsburgh a touchdown win in this one, 24-17.
24-17, I'm with that score and that outcome. Look, Pittsburgh to me has the best defense in the National Football League. There's 4 defenses that I'm really sold on. San Francisco, when healthy. Baltimore, Buffalo, and then my number 1 is Pittsburgh. I think they are the best at all 3 levels. Not only do I think the Texans go 0-3, but I'm going to be insanely impressed if Deshaun Watson comes out of this game alive. With the type of pass rush that T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree can put on him, and that still terrible offensive line in Houston, I'm going to say a prayer for you, Deshaun. I don't like the team you play on, but I respect the hell out of you.
All righty, 4:05. Teddy Two Gloves and the Carolina Panthers with no Christian McCaffrey. Take on the rookie, Justin Herbert and the L.A. Chargers. And no Christian McCaffrey equals a lot of problems. Justin Herbert's going to get his first win as a starter with the Chargers, 30-21.
You kind of took the words right out of my mouth. No McCaffrey, a lot of problems. Like the Chargers in this matchup.
All right, let's go to 4:25. What we think should rebuild Detroit Lions are taking on my preseason MVP pick, Kyler Murray, and the Arizona Cardinals, one of the hottest teams in football. And my question is, even as an Ohio State lover, is Jeff Okudah ready for the DeAndre Hopkins matchup? I don't think any corner in the league is ready for the DeAndre Hopkins matchup. So Arizona wins this one pretty convincingly, 33-20.
I'm with you. I was trying to debate on the score, but I'm kind of with you on it. God,
Alrighty.
they're killing us.
Tom Brady, the GOAT, travels to Denver to take on Jeff Driscoll and the Denver Broncos. Drew Lock, another one of those injuries that went down last week. Cortland Sutton, another one of those injuries that went down last week. I think, and with that being said, Tampa's going to go right in, and this could get ugly, and it could not. But I'm going to play it safe. I've got Tampa winning this by 2 touchdowns, 28-14.
I'm going to go 35-17, Tampa.
All righty. How about them boys? Dallas riding off the
20-point come from behind
20-point comeback last week. Sickening to watch with all the Cowboy fans on my timeline. They travel to Seattle to take on the MVP frontrunner, Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. And this is going to be a close game because while Russell Wilson is good and very good this year, their defense struggles. And when you have weapons like CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Zeke, and Dak, they're gonna put up points. And I'm gonna give Seattle the win though, 27-20 in Seattle.
I like it. I think I'm going to go 28-21. So maybe like a point different on each side. I think Wilson throws all 4 touchdown passes. And when do I ever bet against Russell Wilson? Come on, guys. Unless the team is that much better, which I don't think the Cowboys are. I'm going to disagree slightly. I think this Seahawks defense is much improved. Are they a top 5 defense in the league? No. But I think they're top 15.
I wouldn't give them that, but okay. So Sunday night, that, to quote Stephen A. Smith, that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, heads to New Orleans to take on Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. No home field advantage, really, with no fans. A-Rod is able to go into New Orleans and come out with the W, 30-20.
I really don't like how much I'm agreeing with you, but yes, I'm sold on the Packers, and I like them. I like them a lot. I'm going to say they're not going to score as much as they have in the first 2 games, but I think it's going to be 35-28 Green Bay.
All right, and this is going to be the game I got a feeling we're about to disagree on. Monday night, the two best quarterbacks in the AFC, 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks probably in the NFL. Patty Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. Monday Night Football. Prime time. So, I want to start with, who do you have, Les? Let's start with that.
I got the Chiefs. Mahomes owns Lamar in the series, and I think that continues. Is
that all you got?
That's all I need.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm looking at these rosters. Baltimore's got the better all-around roster. Kansas City's got the better quarterback. Kansas City has the better coach. But in Baltimore, this defense is smothering in Baltimore. I think Lamar's hungry to finally get a W to get over the hump of trying to beat Patrick Mahomes. And I think Baltimore comes out with a statement. 35-24, Lamar gets his W over Patrick Mahomes.
You put Mahomes in a primetime spot. And it doesn't matter what the defense is going to do because you can't stop him. Mahomes is that guy. Lamar, I like the way you've played so far, but you still got a lot to prove to me. I can't bet against Mahomes, especially not in a big-time matchup. So I like the Chiefs. So you're right. We do disagree on that one.
And I'm going Baltimore. So those are my picks this week.
So that wraps up the week 3 picks for the Jacob Klucas Pick'em week. So I got to ask you, a couple other topics.
Les, I need you to focus so we can get through this.
Oh my gosh. Ellinger just threw an interception. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Gosh, we're almost to the finish line too. This is driving me crazy. Gonna have to say after the show, I'm gonna be all focused in editing this and watching the rest of this game. But let's talk. Something we haven't really touched on a lot in the show. Let's talk about some of the. I woke up this morning to the surprising news that the Cincinnati Reds have clinched a postseason berth.
Let's talk about how the Miami Marlins have clinched a postseason berth.
Let's talk about how the White Sox and the Padres have clinched a postseason berth. This shortened season has made for a lot of surprising postseason teams. Let's give a shout out to DJ on this one and talk about how the Padres and Texas is now trailing. But how the Padres and the White Sox now not only have clinched postseason berths, but have MVP candidates as that. Now, that's not surprising. Now, the Padres, that's not surprising to me because I'm really sold on Fernando Tatis, one of my favorite players in the league. And I don't know what this is for.
Because I'm waiting for my shout-out. We're just going to leave out that the Cleveland Indians are in the postseason.
I expected them to be in the postseason.
With this pitching rotation, the AL better be worried.
I agree. But as something that I think that you and DJ both are just so happy to see, who also clinched their postseason berth last night? The Astros. The final postseason berth.
I hope they get swept.
I'll say now that the final postseason berth has been made in the AL, who will they play first round?
I'm not sure. Who do they play?
All right, we'll have to look on that and come back on that for another episode. But I'm still, as a Cardinals fan, I'm still waiting for us. We are, as of right now, in the postseason. If the season were to end today, which would make 3 NL Central teams that'll be in the postseason: the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Reds.
Shane Bieber for Cy Young. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm actually with you 100% on that.
And actually, low-key, when you start to think about it, Shane Bieber for MVP.
That's debatable. Might have to go Abreu on this one, but it's all right.
But, yep, Indians in the postseason. That's all I care about. We're surviving and advancing.
Fair enough. I think that wraps up another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast. As always, in the comment section below, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. You want to tell me and Klucas that we have no idea what we're talking about, feel free to do that, but we'll prove you wrong on another episode. But now, I'm going to watch Texas blow this game. Fingers crossed that I jinxed that. Hook 'em horns. And until next time, it's your host, Les Abbott.
Jacob Klucas. Let's go Lakers.